10,000 years ago, a woman picked a berry off a bush. She was starving. Her tribe hadn't eaten in 2 days. She ate it. And 30 minutes later, she was somewhere else entirely. Not physically, but in her mind. She had just become the first human in history to get high. And what happened next, to her tribe, and to all of human civilization, is one of the strangest stories science has ever uncovered. Her tribe thought she was dying, or possessed. They had absolutely no framework for what they were seeing. And honestly, neither did she. Imagine you have zero concept of drugs, zero concept of altered states, zero concept of anything happening inside your brain that could change how you perceive reality. You've never been drunk, never had caffeine, never had anything stronger than food and water. And then, suddenly, everything shifts. Colors look different. Sounds feel closer. Your hands don't look like your hands. You don't know if you're dying. You don't know if the gods are speaking to you. You don't know anything, except that the world stopped making sense 30 minutes ago, and you can't make it stop. Her tribe had two options: run, or try to understand. And the decision they made in that moment changed everything. The shaman felt it too. And unlike the woman, he had an explanation. Not a scientific one, but one that made complete sense to everyone in the tribe. The shaman decided this wasn't a poison, and it wasn't a curse. It was a door to somewhere the gods lived. Because what else could explain it? Your mind leaves your body. You see things that aren't there. You feel connected to something larger than yourself. In a world with no science, the only explanation was the supernatural. And from that moment, psychoactive plants didn't just become recreational. They became sacred. The first religions on Earth were likely built around this exact experience. And here's where it gets really dark. This wasn't a one-time accident. Archaeological evidence suggests this happened independently in at least a dozen different cultures, on different continents, with different plants, all reaching the same conclusion. These plants are a gateway to the gods. Some anthropologists now argue that psychoactive plants didn't just influence early religion, they may have started it. But that's not even the most disturbing part of this story. Here's what was happening inside her brain. Your brain has a network called the default mode network. It's active when you're thinking about yourself, your identity, your memories, your sense of being you. That berry may have contained psilocybin, a compound that interacts with serotonin receptors, especially the 5-HT2A receptor. And when that receptor activates, something strange can happen. The default mode network grows quieter. Your sense of self starts to fade. And when your ego disappears, something fills the gap. Brain regions that rarely communicate can suddenly exchange information. Scientists have measured changes like this in brain scans. The result can be a feeling of being connected to everything, to something larger than yourself. Scientists call it ego dissolution. Ancient humans called it talking to God. Same brain, same receptor, same experience, 10,000 years apart. The brain may also produce a related psychedelic compound. It's called DMT. Scientists have found evidence that DMT can be produced naturally in mammals and possibly in the human brain. Its role in dreams, extreme danger, or death is still debated. And if human brains everywhere work in roughly the same way, maybe that's why people separated by oceans kept reaching similar conclusions. Eleusis, Greece, 400 BC. Every year, thousands of people made the journey here, on foot, for days. Philosophers, politicians, generals, poets, all of them walking toward the same place. For one ceremony, one single cup, a brew made from barley, and something else. Researchers now believe that something else was ergot, a naturally occurring fungus with psychoactive properties. Among those who attended, Plato, Aristotle, Sophocles, Marcus Aurelius, the greatest minds of the ancient world. Different beliefs, different cities, same ceremony, same cup. Plato attended and then spent the rest of his life writing about the eternal soul, about a world beyond this one, about what happens after death. Aristotle attended and described it not as something you learn, but something you feel. The ceremony ran for nearly 2,000 years without interruption. And we still don't know exactly what happened inside, because every single participant swore an oath of secrecy, on penalty of death. For 2,000 years, nobody broke it. By now, these plants weren't just part of one tribe. They were moving. Across mountains, across deserts, across continents. Trade routes didn't just carry tools and food. They carried ideas, stories, rituals, and sometimes sacred plants. Archaeological evidence suggests that many cultures may have independently discovered psychoactive plants. And despite being separated by vast distances, Many cultures recorded experiences that shared striking similarities: feelings of connection, visions, encounters with something larger than themselves. Over time, those experiences became traditions. Traditions became rituals, and rituals became institutions. Some archaeologists think certain ceremonies may have played an important role in creating social bonds between larger groups of people. And as societies grew larger, those shared experiences became increasingly valuable. The plants were spreading, but so was something else: power. And once something becomes powerful enough to shape entire societies, someone will eventually try to control it. For thousands of years, these plants were medicine: ritual, community, connection. Then something changed. As societies became larger and more organized, power became increasingly centralized, and experiences that existed outside traditional authority became harder to control. Researchers still debate exactly why many psychoactive traditions disappeared or were suppressed. But history shows a pattern. Again and again, practices once considered sacred became viewed with suspicion. The reasons varied from place to place: sometimes religion, sometimes politics, sometimes fear, sometimes simple misunderstanding. Sometimes they were demonized. Sometimes they simply faded as new institutions replaced old ones. The result was often the same. Knowledge that had survived for thousands of years began disappearing, not all at once, but generation by generation. And by the 20th century, many of these substances were no longer seen as sacred. They were seen as dangerous. But here's the strange part: the story didn't end. Because after decades of silence, scientists decided to look again. And what they found surprised almost everyone. Researchers at institutions like Johns Hopkins and Imperial College London began studying these compounds under controlled conditions. Not to talk to gods, not to create visions, but to understand the brain. And in some studies, the results were remarkable. In recent clinical trials, researchers have found evidence suggesting that psychedelic-assisted therapy may help some patients suffering from treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Exactly how these effects work is still being studied. But one idea appears again and again. Some researchers believe these compounds may temporarily make the brain less rigid, allowing deeply ingrained patterns of thought to loosen, and creating an opportunity for new patterns to emerge. And suddenly, the story comes full circle. A woman eats a strange berry. A tribe witnesses something impossible. Thousands of years pass. Civilizations rise, civilizations fall. Knowledge is lost, knowledge is rediscovered. And scientists find themselves asking many of the same questions ancient humans once asked. Not whether the gods were real, but why these experiences feel so meaningful. One woman, one berry, one accident, and possibly one of the most influential discoveries in human history. So, what do you think? Were ancient humans discovering something profound about the human mind? Or were they simply experiencing chemistry they couldn't yet explain? Let me know in the comments. And if you think this story was strange, the next one gets even stranger.